Okay, so it's about YMBA Diploma Dhamma for assignment 6. Question 1 is set out the main differences between the Theravāda and Mahāyāna doctrines. So as an introduction, in Buddhism, generally and currently divided into two different groups, namely the Northern Buddhism and the Southern Buddhism. And historically, it was recorded that there were at least 18 different sects. Those still exist are grouped under 1, the Mahāyāna and Vajrayana from the Northern Buddhism, and 2, the Theravāda from the Southern Buddhism. So both Buddhism believe in the existence of Gautama Buddha and his teaching. Take refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, or the Triple Gems. Believe in the core teaching of 4 Noble Truths and the 8 Noble Paths. So they uphold ethics, monastic and lay, practice meditation, and to gain wisdom. Both teach dependent origination and non-self or shunyata, and cultivate the 4 Brahma Viharas. Within Mahāyāna, there are a few distinct schools like Chan, Pure Land, Kentai, and Huayan, each emphasizing and using different sutras as their main reference and practice. Similarly, in Theravāda, there are minor differences between Myanmar, Sri Lanka, and Thai Buddhism, more due to different emphasis and local cultural and customary influence. So now let's go into details on the main differences between the Theravāda and Mahāyāna doctrines. So one may classify or group the differences as follows. The first one is the core purpose. Theravāda, the emphasis is on the Buddha's early discourses and the Pali Canon. Goal is arahantship, and through the eradication of defilements, namely greed, hatred, and delusion. It focuses on personal liberation, only then help and guide others, including living by examples. Whereas in the Mahāyāna, the emphasis on the later sutras and the bodhisattva ideal. The goal is Buddhahood, that is Anuttara Samyak Sambuddhi, not only for oneself, but out of great compassion, also to save and for the benefit of all other beings. The union of great compassion, Mahakaruna, and wisdom prajna are the keys for the realizations of the emptiness, sunyata. The second difference is the canon and authority. In Theravāda, the Pali Tipitaka, namely Vinaya, Sutta, and Abhidhamma, are the primary source, while the commentaries and sub-commentaries are the secondary and complementary sources to explain and clarify certain concepts or details. They claim to have and preserve the earliest sayings of the Buddha. The Tipitaka is said to be the most complete. To some, the early strata suttas are prioritized. So within this Tipitaka, certain suttas are regarded as early sutta, and they are prioritized by this group of people. Whereas in Mahāyāna, they accept the early Nikaya, there is the Pali Tipitaka, and also Agamas. That is the Mandarin translated into Mandarin, plus later Mahāyāna Sutras. For example, the Prajna Paramita, the Lotus Sutra, and the Heart Sutra, or the Tantras in the Vajrayana lineage. The emphasis are given to later sutras, some of which actually expand and deepen some of the virtues and intent which was in germinal form of the Buddha's early discourses, that means the suttas. Their skillful means, upaya, and delivered, and some develop it to omniscience Buddhahood. These later sutras, which historians believe, some a few hundred years later after the Buddha's Mahaparinibbana, are regarded as later revelation by the Mahāyāna, but the Theravāda does not accept this as canonical. So the third difference is the ideal and the path structure. In Theravāda, it is the Arahant ideal, which is to get awakening and by oneself. That means only oneself can awaken, only one can awaken oneself. And it's through the four noble stages, namely the Sotapatti, Sakadagami, Anagami, and Arahant. So the path is called the Noble Eightfold Path. The approach can be through the four foundations of mindfulness, the Satipatthana Sutta, MN10, or through the meditation, breathing meditation, or MN118, Anapanasati Sutta, or some use jhana, or in Visuddhimagga, the 7 factors of purification, Satta Bhujanga. The foundations required are generosity, dana, virtue, and mental cultivation, or bhavana. For virtue, Vinaya is central to monastic, while for lay people, it's 5 precepts minimally, and then develop and perfect the 10 parameters. On mental cultivation, practice and develop samatha meditation, calm and concentration, and vipassana meditations for insight and wisdom. So the Bodhisattva in Theravada, the Bodhisattva was the Buddha to be. So in his past lives, that is the Gautama Buddha's past lives. The focus is on Gautama the Buddha, who was born, had lived and died as a human being, who had found the path and taught us through his teaching. That is the dispensation. Whereas in Mahāyāna, the ideal is to attain Buddhahood. There is to be enlightened like a Buddha. And the path is Bodhisattva path. The Bodhisattva has to fulfill or complete the 6 perfections or paramitas, followed by the 10 stages, or they call it Bodhisattva Bhumi. The foundations required are the Bodhisattva vow that includes to liberate all beings and later culminate as a savior. Generate and develop bodhicitta, the intention of enlightenment. Practice generosity, compassion for all beings. Virtue and mental cultivation. For virtue, Bodhisattva precepts are central. Regular or daily practice of chanting, or visualization in some school, and devotion to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The first direct realization or seeing of emptiness marks the first bhumi, and a shift from sincere aspiration to irreversible insight. Thereafter, the practice is the steady purification and perfections of compassion and wisdom until Buddhahood. Though Mahāyāna respect arahantship, arahant is regarded as lower and partial attainment relative to their goal of omniscience Buddhahood. They believe that there are many active Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as well as Pure Lands. For example, Amitabha's Sukhavati, or Western Pure Land. In Pure Land school, rebirth for unenlightened beings into the Pure Land is regarded as a viable half support. That means a lay devotee can aspire to be reborn in Pure Land, the Western Pure Land, and once one is born into the Pure Land, then one has a good environment to support one's cultivation to be the Buddha. So number 4, the four differences are view on awakening and Nibbana. In Theravāda, Nibbana is the final goal and ultimate deliverance from the samsaric sufferings, which is the cycle of birth and death. Meaning to say, after and the total eradication of defilements. Nibbana is the unconditioned, asankata, deathless, amata, timeless, akala, and peace. There is no becoming, no rebirth, no conditioned phenomenon. So after awakening, the Arahant will continue to live and serve the community until his parinibbana, or the physical body death, and there will be no further rebirth or becoming. In Mahāyāna, Nibbana is becoming conscious of the absolute nature or the bodhicitta within oneself, the blossoming of Buddhahood. It is awakening that does not abide in samsara, nor in a separate Nibbana, instead remaining active through compassion. That means the Buddha and Bodhisattva is still active in the world. The fifth differences are, I classify them as other differences. So in Theravāda, the emphasis is on the present moment awareness, emptiness, sunyata, as emptiness as empty of self, or what pertains to a permanent self. The existence of other Sammasambuddha are acknowledged, but not central to the practice. As cultivation of good virtue and mental practice are emphasized, devotional practices are less. Though devotional deeds like parita chanting, merit making, and simple offerings are also quite common among the lay devotees. Theravāda believes merits could only be shared to certain beings in the ghostly realm, and with the condition that those beings are able to rejoice at those meritorious deeds. Whereas in Mahāyāna, emptiness, sunyata, is regarded as lack of intrinsic nature, sabhava, of all phenomena. Some schools within Mahāyāna teach Buddha nature, tathagata gata, as the potential or the inner nature, which is luminous and pure in every being, that is, including animals, ghosts, all the realms, beings in all the realms. There are many Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and Pure Lands, and their respective sutras are greatly emphasized, besides the core teachings of Gautama Buddha. Thus, strong devotion to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, like chanting of sutras and mantra, are encouraged and widely practiced by both monastics and lay devotees. Mahāyāna believed that merits could be shared and Bodhisattvas could receive the unwholesome merits of others. So in conclusion, in Theravāda, the differences within the sect are more of emphasis of practice. For example, in Niyama Samatha and Vipassana meditation are generally based on Abhidhamma Pitaka. And in Thailand, Buddha for Samatha meditation, and Dhutanga practice for overcoming fear and death, and Vipassana meditation for insight and wisdom development. For in Mahāyāna, the differences within the sect can be very diverse and vary from one school to another. Pure Land School seeks for rebirth in Amitabha's Pure Land as an expedient way of attaining Buddhahood through faith. Yogacara School emphasizes mind only and the storehouse consciousness, the Alaya Vijnana. Vimalakirti School emphasizes non-duality and lay bodhisattva ideal. Thus, it's not easy to compare these two sects, except the general aspects that are common within their respective sects. So that's the end of my presentation. This morning, Brother Lau, can I continue on with it? Because this morning I have some sort of idea crops up in my mind.
Okay, I can continue.
It's just for food for thoughts. So this is something about how the evolutions of car. Okay, for example, initially the idea came out, and then the initiator patented the design. So this is the first design and paper which was patented. And then this was the first vehicle which was driven by Carl Banks in 1886. Then later they keep on improving on it. So now they have rubberized tire, but it could be solid tire. Then the rest is more of a body so that they can hold the passengers and the driver. Then later they improve on the exteriors and the comfort. Then because they improve on the engines, so now they have a longer chassis. They need a bigger compartment for the engines. And circumstances arises, so they need some sort of compact car, not so much for luxury, but more for the initial purpose of a useful vehicle to transport from A to B. And over time, people also start to aspire for better things. New ideas came in, so they came up with different needs and different wants. So if you look at it, then from initial improvement, maybe start with comfort, so that it's not so crude, not so difficult, it's more comfortable to sit. Then they start to look at beauty, they start to look at the needs of it, and then as time passes, people look for choices. Then people even look at branding. So they start to think, oh, why not we brand it this way so that it can sell better, they have certain prestige status. Then another stage comes, maybe they say, oh, I will use a special material to build the body, so they came up with the carbon series. And on the local context, you can see our Proton series, in Malaysia. So these are the Malaysia options, the choices. So they can break into say, okay, from initially you start with Saga, then they have Persona. Then after that, they start to have series, X50, X70, X90, something like that. So you see, so this is how the evolution of car happens. And this can only be seen when we reflect back. We look backward. So instead of looking at the current choices, we look backward at the historical evolution of the car. And this was the initial design, or something similar to this, because this was patented. So there could be other design, but it's not patented. Because this patent was in 1895, whereas this one was in 1886, the first vehicle. The meaning to say this design was not patented. It was here that we patented. So now, from this evolution of car, let's compare to what we have just now discussed, the evolutions of the Buddha Dhamma, Buddha's Dhamma Vinaya. Are there similarities and differences between these two evolutions? Currently, the Buddha's Dhamma Vinaya has evolved into Theravāda and Mahāyāna. So similarly, the evolution of karma, from a simple, purposeful idea, it has evolved into many brands of cars. And even now we have electric car, and we are talking about hydrogen buses, and more things are coming. So we are adding more and more variety. So what can one learn from these two comparisons? These are the food for thoughts, And how can one improve one's worldview and improve one's inner understanding? Worldview are more from the external part, the object part. That means the car. And then here in Buddha Dhamma, we can say, okay, the label Mahāyāna Theravāda. But the other aspect of it which we can look at is the inner understanding, the spiritual part. That means, for example, the car is the component. What are the components that you use? And then for our inner understanding is how do our mind thought evolve? And how do this evolve helps us to improve? So this is the food for thoughts for us to reflect on. These are something that crops up this morning. So I quickly put it into a simple illustration and pictorial so that it's easier for us to visualize. So with that, I thank you. That's the end of my sharing. So
On add to the
Brother Cole, sorry, Brother Lau, I want to ask question.
okay.
Brother Cole, your slide, right? The part on the Buddhist, on the Buddhist Nibbana.
Okay.
You say Mahāyāna thinks the Nibbana as where the part where you talk about the Nibbana. Okay. Nibbana is becoming conscious of the absolute nature of the bodhicitta within oneself. The blossoming of Buddha's awakening does not abide in samsara nor in a separate divan. What is that?
The last sentence, is it?
Yeah.
So you see, to them, the Bodhisattva as well as the Buddha is still active in the samsara world in that sense, is it? But they do not live in this samsara as if they are subjected to the dukkha, anicca, dukkha, and anatta. They are still present out of compassion for the being. So they are still helping the beings.
Ours also same one. Theravāda, after you achieve Nibbana, you are still there, until you die,
Yeah, before they die. But this one, even after they are no more physically here, but they are, I don't know. In fact, this is something which I am trying to understand also. But this is what I gather from some of the research that I obtained.
The next slide.
The next one is
the next slide. What do you say?
Next one is the point number 4. Wait, the other differences.
Oh no. It's the earlier one. I think earlier one is a bit no. I mean that sentence. Just now that sentence. I think a bit confusing because I thought this part is we understand the same thing. It's just that they don't want to achieve that Nibbana. They want to continue on as a Bodhisattva. Or you're trying to say when they reach Bodhisattva, they already reach the Nibbana? No, right?
They claim to be, I mean, from what I read, is that they have actually can opt, for example, later when you see Sister Sumitra, I think at stage 6, they are equivalent to Arahant already. but they opt to stay on so that they can actually continue on to help the suffering beings.
So,
Sister Chai,
yeah.
can I ask you why you say that after when achieve Nibbana, we are still there? What do you mean? After achieving Nibbana, we are still there?
No, I mean if we haven't died lah, just like Buddha, when he already attained the enlightenment but his body is still there until he died So what I'm trying to say is that
Oh, you mean still on earth lah? Still in the
Ah.
samsara? Okay.
Still on the earth until it dies That is there's one what they say Nibbana, something like that, right? To mention that
Result remains.
Then when you pass away, then become the Nibbana But this one is like the bodhicitta within oneself, the blossoming. That means you are saying the bodhisattva has already realized the Nibbana lah, is it? But they continue to stay on and on is it like that
Yes, that's what I understand
So when the next time when they reborn, they already bodhisattva, they already enlightened.
Yeah, even the Buddha can
No,
be.
but Buddha, when he was a bodhisattva, he was not enlightened what?
That is why I think maybe.
Oh, there's a difference
Mix of school. Different schools have different way within the Mahāyāna have a different way of interpreting, because they have active Buddha. So when you say active Buddha, what does that mean? And then they have Bodhisattva, who has actually even at stage 6, the Bhumi 6, they are equivalent to something like equivalent to Arahant already, or rather they are even better beyond or higher than Pachika Buddha already. But yet they are still around for their stage 7, 8, and 9, 10.
Okay.
So in fact, those areas I'm quite blur. I'm not very sure. But maybe you can help to clarify for me.
The one I got no time. Okay.
Okay, yeah. So any other comment? If not, I stop share. So second question is so, or you want me to continue on with my next presentation?
I think you continue lah, so your screen can just carry on.
Okay.
Can I don't know can or not. Ask brother Lam.
Yeah, continue lah.
Continue. So this is question 4. So question 4 is the Theravāda and Mahāyāna accept the same teacher and the same fundamental teachings. Comment. So for introductions, so the appearance of Gautama Buddha 2,600 years ago, and his teaching had gone through much discussions, debates, and hypotheses. Along this long passage of time, there were different versions of verbal and recorded history of what had transpired and that had led to the appearance of different sects. In Theravāda tradition, the Second Buddhist Council, it was stated that there were disputes on Vinaya, and in the Third Buddhist Council, it was recorded that there were at least 18 sects. 2 of these evolved to become the current Theravāda and Mahāyāna. While in the Mahāyāna records, it was recorded that the dispute in the Second Buddhist Council was due to doctrinal differences, especially to a specific Theravāda monk. Subsequent records seems to paint the gradual increase of sects and diversity were due to doctrinal implications. So now let's look into the same teacher. Both sects, Theravāda and Mahāyāna, regard the historical Siddhartha Gautama Buddha as their teacher. He was born in ancient India, lived and died as a human being. He attained Buddhahood in that very life, had various supra-mundane knowledges and supernatural powers. Throughout his life, after attaining enlightenment until his death, or Mahaparinibbana, he taught his disciples and lay people, and these teachings were collated, compiled, and preserved, and is now called the Dhamma. Both lineages, there is teacher to students, could be traced all the way back to this historical Buddha. Both honor and take refuge in the Buddha until this present time. Same fundamental teachings. Both accepted the core teaching of Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Noble Path, the three characteristics of Anicca, Dukkha, and Anatta. The three roots of poisons are Lobha, Dosa, and Moha. The law of karma, Vipaka, dependent origination, and Nibbana as the end of suffering. Both emphasize middle way and avoids the two extremes. There is the eternalism and materialism. Both uphold that Sila, Samadhi, and Panya as the path structure towards liberation, that is from suffering and awakening. And the goal is to be liberated from dukkha by gradual and full eradication of the three evil roots. Both value generosity, virtue, and meditation to develop the mind for concentration and wisdom. To have harmony and balance of mind, both encourage the cultivation of four divine abiding, Brahma Vihara. Let's also look at the differences. The canon and number one is canon and authority. Theravāda centers on Pali Tipitaka, while Mahāyāna uses the Agamas and some later sutras, which they regard as later revelation but are not recognized as canonical by Theravāda. Number two differences is ideal and path. Theravāda highlights the arahantship, while Mahāyāna promotes the bodhisattva path. The third difference is monastic codes. Theravāda uses the Pali Vinaya lineage, while Mahāyāna uses the Dhammaguptaka Vinaya, whereas the Tibetan uses the Mulla Sarvastivada Vinaya. For lay people, the precepts are largely the same except the Bodhisattva vow by the Mahāyānese devotees or the lay Mahāyānese follower. Another aspect which we can look at is the skillful means. For example, when we look at it in terms of graduated talk in the Theravāda and the skillful means in the Mahāyāna, actually both aim at dispassion and cessation. That means, even though they have diversity in the ways they deliver, but there is a unity in the essential, the essence of it. That is the purpose is to have dispassion and cessation. And then when we compare the not self or non-self anatta versus the sunyata, the emptiness. So in Theravāda, all phenomena are regarded as not self or non-self because they arise independently and they are void of I, mind, and non-self. Whereas in Mahāyāna, they regard it as all phenomena as empty of inherent nature, and emptiness is the dependent arising of things. So, however, both emphasize seeing conditionality clearly, and that will lead to non-clinging or release of clinging, depending on how you put it. In Theravāda, they say non-clinging. In Mahāyāna, they tend to look at it from release of clinging. So In Theravāda, triple gem contemplations are regarded generally for samatha meditation. While in Mahāyāna, they use chanting. For example, Sukhavati Yuha Sutra or Amitabha. And both result in composure and one-pointedness. That is the, in a way, a samatha practice. So in conclusion, if same teacher and same fundamentals means shared refuge, Four Noble Truths, ethics, mental cultivation, and liberation, then broadly it is correct and true. However, if it also claims that identical scriptures, doctrines, and practices, then this is not true. As over the time, the development and canons have diverged. Whereas if you look from another aspect or perspective, if one is to evaluate by the fruits, that is, less greed, less hatred, and less delusion, or more compassion and wisdom, then where practices yield these results, there are convergence and there are similarity. So that's conclude my presentation. Thank you. This is shorter.
Okay, good word. Anybody want to put any comment? No, we'll proceed to the next question.
Okay, thank you.
This, yeah. Okay. My one is question number 2. Trace the event that lead to division of the Buddha Sasana into different sects. Into different sects. Okay. So after the passing away of the Buddha around 483 BC, his followers remained united until a common discipline, that's the Vinaya, and doctrine, Dhamma. So they are united under Vinaya and Dhamma. Now, the Buddha had not appointed any successor. Instead, he advised his disciple to regard the Dhamma and the Vinaya as their teacher. Now, although the Sangha was united at first, differences gradually arose regarding the interpretation of rules and doctrine, which eventually led to the division. The first Buddhist council was held in Rajagaha, Rajgir, right now, shortly after Buddha's death, under the presidency of Mahākassapa and the patronage of King Ajatasutta. The purpose was to preserve the Buddha's teaching. Ananda then recited the Dhamma and Upali recited the Vinaya. There was common agreement at this stage and no sectarian division occurred. Then about 100 years later, during the reign of King Kalasuka, the second Buddhist council was convened at Versailles to settle a dispute over certain monastic practices. The monk of Versailles advocated 10 points that relaxed some Vinaya rule, such as the use of money, eating after midday, drinking fermented beverages. Now, the conservative monk called the elders, that is the Thera, opposed this relaxation, while the liberal monk, known as the Mahasahikas, great community, supported them. Now, the dispute could not be resolved due to disciplinary dispute, resulting in the first schism in the Buddhist Sangha. Thus, the community split into two main groups, the Thera, the elders, and the Mahasahikas. Their division laid the groundwork for later development of the Theravāda and Mahāyāna tradition. In the following century, both Thera and the Mahasahika divided further into smaller sects due to differences in interpretation of doctrines and the monastic discipline. By the time of Emperor Asoka in the 3rd century BC, there were already 18 schools of Buddhism. To restore unity and purity in the Sangha, Asoka convened the 3rd Buddhist Council at Pataliputra under the leadership of Monggaliputta Tissa. The council expelled heretical monks and reaffirmed orthodox teaching, which came to be associated with the Theravāda school. Around the 1st century BC to the 1st century CE, new philosophical and devotional trend appeared within the Buddhism. This emphasized the bodhisattva idea, compassion for all beings, and the goal of universal salvation. This movement developed into Mahāyāna Buddhism, distinguishing itself from the older, more conservative Hinayana tradition. Later, Mahāyāna itself branched into further philosophical schools such as Mayamika and Yogacara. In conclusion, the division of Buddha Sangha was a gradual process. It began with minor dispute over the monastic discipline, deepened through doctrinal disagreement, and eventually led to the formation of distinct sects and schools. While the early schisms were mainly organizational, later division reflected the rich diversity of thoughts and interpretation within the Buddhist tradition. So this is actually, it shows how it was spread. The first council, the Sangha were all very united. Then later, the second council, due to disciplinary, they don't agree with the Vinaya rule, then it split into the elder and the Mahasahika. Then later, they split further until King Asoka came in. He conducted the 3rd council. Then he further spread the Theravada, spread the mission. And then, but then we have 2 schools. There is the Mahāyāna and the Theravada tradition. So for that, I finished this question. Any question?
Okay, good. I add in some more thing.
Okay.
Okay, let me share my copy to you.
Okay.
Okay, here you may see something else missing, especially 3rd Buddhist Council. This is another source I got it. So just bear with whatever you need to add in, just add in. Okay, the introduction is a fascinating and complex history that spanned over several centuries. The division of Buddhist sasana was not a single event, but gradual process fueled by doctrinal differences, geographical spread, and monastic practices. So we trace a foundation of how it started. So our Buddha established the Sangha and teaches the Dhamma 45 years. Then all his teaching are in oral form, and he appointed no successor, but he gave the words that be an island unto yourself and be your own refuge. So he hold firm the Dhamma as a refuge. So Dhamma as a teacher or as a leader. So we trace the schism happened from the very first Buddhist council. Okay, I don't know the date is correct or wrong. If it's wrong, use the YMBA text date. So as you all know, the day and location of Buddha after his Paridibana, they start the first council under the patronage of King Ajasattu. And then important thing is to preserve the teachings, and there's concern that without the Buddha, the Dhamma, Vinaya will be corrupted or forgotten. So during the event, is a recitation of the Vinaya, and Upali recite the Vinaya, and our Venerable Ananda recite the Dhamma. So that became the basis for the Sutta Pitaka. So outcome is that order canon was formally established and the community remained unified at this state. So at first Buddhist council, there's not much changes. So come the second council, please check the date. If different, please use a YMBA text. 100 years later, after the Buddha Parinirvana, it was held at this Vasali. The first major schism is by the monastic discipline. So this Vasali monk give trouble. So they became practicing what more constitutive elder consider as 10 lakhs points. As your sister mentioned, I'm not going to go through again. So an event was held by 700 elders and conveyed by Yasa Devata, and the council declared the 10 practices as unorthodox against the Vinaya. And then the outcome is a great schism, or what I call the Mahāsangika. The monks who are condemned refused to accept the verdict. After this council, they held their own council and formed a separate order called the Mahāsangika Assembly. This is another separate assembly, not recognized by the Theravāda. So these consecutive elders became known as the Theravāda, or follow the way of elders. So this is the first major division in Buddhism. So there's a split, early split. Phase 2, doctrine verification, the 18th early school. Over the next century or two, both the Sarvatins and the Mahāsangika further subdivided, leading to so-called 18th school. They were largely variation within what we later term as early Buddhism, or some of the Mahāyāna they lay as a Hinayana, lower vehicle. So this is not overnight after second Buddhist council. It's a slow process. So from the Sarvativada emerged the Sarvastivada, happened in the northwest India and Central Asia, and you got the Vabhivadaya, school from the Theravada who descend from others. So even the Theravada are split. Okay. From the Mahāsangika emerged, and this called Lokatavada, who saw Buddha as a transient being and others. So many changes following that. So differences often stubborn but significant focus on philosophical point, like questionable thing is the nature of Arahat, enlightened being. Could they fall back? Were they perfect? Then they put this thing like existence of past, present, and future Dhamma, phenomena, and the transcendent versus the human nature of Buddha. These are all the new interpretation from the splitting school. Then come phase 3, the seed of Mahāyāna. New ideas and texts come out. This is later changes. So between the 3rd century BC till the 1st CE, new ideas become to ferment primarily within the Mahāsangika related circle. So even Mahāsangika changes there. So this idea could crystallize into this Mahāyāna movement. Key doctrinal shifts, what are they? The idea of Bodhisattva, a shift from the goal of Arahat who seek personal liberation to the Bodhisattva who vow to attain full Buddhahood to the state of all sentient beings. So in a way, these Mahāyānis, they even qualified for Buddhahood, they will delay. They delay until all beings are liberated. So they will come back again and be Bodhisattva and do the cycle again. And then the transcendent Buddha, the concept of Buddha as a cosmic eternal principle rather than just a historical human teacher. This one something different from the, I don't know whether this source is correct or not, but this is what they put there. slightly different from our brother Koan. Because the Mahāyānis, they're putting this as a new concept of Buddha as a cosmic. So this lead to doctrine like the three kaya, three bodies of the Buddha. This one you all never study, unless you all go for further study on Mahāyāna in degree level, then you come across here. They have three bodies. So three bodies beside the physical body, there are two other bodies. Then the idea like emptiness, sunyata, is a radical doctrine, most famous expounded in the Prajna Mita Sutra, that all phenomena are empty of inherent independent existence. And then they also introducing, we have Buddhist early Theravāda about skillful means, but they make it into more special. Skillful means upaya, the idea that Buddha taught different things to different people based on their capacity, explaining the apparent contradiction between the old and new sutra. Okay, this is they try to deviate away from the Theravāda Sutta. And then new scripture, a new body of sutra began to appear, claiming to be higher or more profound teaching of the Buddha. This included the Prajna Paramita Sutra, Perfection Wisdom, the Lotus Sutra, and the Pure Land Sutta. They were written in Sanskrit and claimed to have both hidden under the world was ready, because they claim that Buddha hid this teaching in the Naga world. It's only after Buddha passed away, they dig out from the Naga world. Phase 4, the consolidating emergence of Mahāyāna. Okay, there is 4 Buddhist council. Our this Theravāda never recognize them, but this is the later one, which about the same time as that happened in Sri Lanka. So the period of 2 major councils held in the split. Theravāda 4th council, this is Sri Lanka one. Alura Vihara, Sri Lanka, patronaged by the king Vatagami Abhiraya. The key event is for the first time, the entire Theravāda Pali Canon was written down on palm leaf, this time in Sinhalese. This will respond to the famine war threatening survival of order tradition, because during that time, all the monks were killed or are starvation, and most of them are gone. So only far and few remain. The outcome is that the Theravāda tradition is now codified in a fixed written form, making it more resistant to change. Next one. This is by the Mahāyāna one, the Theravāda 4th council, 1st and 2nd Kashmir there. So location is at Gundavana, Kashmir, under the patronage of Kunsa King Kanisha. This is in Central Asia. And this council was dominated by Savastivada school. They compiled their own Abhidhamma and produced massive commentary, the Mahavibhansa. So in this particular convention, all the Mahāyāna school, those who are not related to Theravāda, came and assembled here. And all the school rehearsed their teaching. And all the teaching are so-called authenticated. And then they claim to be the words of Buddha. So the council occurred in the region between Mahāyāna ideas were already flourished. It represents the scholastic consolidation of one major non-Mahāyāna school, even as Mahāyāna movement was gaining momentum around it. So from here, this Mahāyāna movement start their push. So the final crystallization, Mahāyāna as a distinct path, 1st century. So by the 1st century, the Mahāyāna movement was no longer a trend within the existing school. It has its own philosophy identity, its own set of revert sutra, and its own path. So during this period, 1st BC, if you study further on the Mahāyāna Buddhism, you study this key figure like philosopher Nagarjuna. they are treated as second Buddha by the Mahāyānis. It's around 2 CE. The founder of Mahāyāna, a middle way school, provided rigorous philosophical foundation for the doctrine of Sunyata, summarizing the teaching of Prajnaparamita Sutra. Then the distinction term, the Hinaya, or lesser vehicle, began to use by Mahāyānis to distinguish their great vehicle from the smaller vehicle, which they now saw a primarily less compassionate path. So during that time, it's called Hinaya, the Theravāda. It's not called Theravāda. It's only later on in the 19th century, then we Buddhists, especially the Theravāda Buddhists, they were against this idea, belittling the Theravāda as small vehicle. That's why in one of the meeting, they dropped the term Hinaya. So it's not a single sect. It's crucial to understand that Mahāyāna itself is not single, unified sect, but a major branch encompasses many schools. Okay, in China, when they Faxian and a few others, they brought the Buddhism to China. There were more than 18 schools, more than that. Example, what remain down here is the Zen, Pure Land, Nichiren, Tiantai, and this. They are more than that. They have one specialized on Vinaya one. All disappear when one of the emperor, I can't remember which state emperor, they crucified all the monks, and then all the monks, same thing as in Sri Lanka, all ran away to Korea and Japan. And then after that, another Chinese emperor came back, become very staunch in Buddhism. Then when they found that Buddhism in China gone already, what they have are those Pure Land, and then the Nichiren and this Tiantai are coming back to this China. So the actual amount of sect in China is now so much less compared to early state. So in conclusion, the division was a multi-state process, a schism over Vinaya Second Council, followed by doctrinal fragmentation in early school, and then the fermentation of new ideas, Bodhisattva idea, Sunyata, and finally the systemization, spiritual authority of these ideas, leading to self-consciousness emergence of Mahāyāna path as a great vehicle, distinct from the earlier tradition. So this is more, I said, degree level of knowledge. This YMBA never give you so much. So I give it to you. When such question come out, you can add in. You will score more points. Okay, that's all I can share with you. Thank you.